In this tutorial, I'll show how to make an optimized game-ready chain asset in Maya and texture it in Substance Painter. As you can see, a high poly model with over 300,000 triangles will be optimized to only 200 triangles. Firstly, let's click the top left to create a torus. Scale it down to the appropriate size. I lowered the subdivisions to get the chain-like shape I want. Delete two of the opposite edges. You can pull these points outward a bit and delete these protruding edges. Soften edges for later baking use. Remember to delete history, reset the pivot, and freeze transformations. Next, hold Shift to drag and duplicate it, then hold J on the keyboard to rotate and make sure they're perpendicular. Here we go. One chain link is done. Press Ctrl G to group them together, and use Shift D to duplicate a backup copy. Press H to hide the models you don't need for now. Click Edit in the top left of the window and go into Duplicate Specials options. Make sure to set the geometry type to Instance. Since I want them duplicated along the x-axis, I'll enter the spacing in the first translate box. You can decide how many to duplicate based on how long you want the chain. I went with 100. You can enter a number higher than that. 0.5 is a bit too far. Let's try 0.45 instead. Perfect. Since I chose Instance, editing one of the models will affect all the others. If you want to do the same thing, remember not to delete history after duplicating. I'm going to add a bevel to sharpen their edges a bit. Double-click to select looped edges, double-click while holding the Shift key to select more, and turn chamfer off to preserve the shape. Click 3 on the keyboard to preview a subdivided version. Toggle this tiny pie chart if the unit of the slider is too large. And with that, the base chain is complete. You can use the same method to create different styles of chains. Let's hide the model and start creating the curve shape we want. Press spacebar to switch to the top view. Go to the top left toolbar, choose Curves, and use the EP Curve tool to draw the curve. This is the shape I want the chain to follow. Now, let's combine the chain links into one mesh and make sure the pivot is centered, otherwise the deform tools won't work properly later. In animation mode, select both the mesh and the curve, then go to the top toolbar, click Deform, and choose Curve Wrap. Now the chain wraps perfectly along the curve. On the right, you can adjust keep length and offset settings. My chain happens to be the perfect length, so there's no visible difference. Here I made a shorter chain as an example. If you turn off keep length, the mesh will stretch to match the length of the curve. Adjusting the offset changes where the wrap starts along the curve. Now the high poly is ready. We'll use the same method to wrap a single strip along the curve as the low poly version of the chain. Start from a plane, drag one of its edges away, and adjust the width to match the size of a chain unit. Set its pivot to the center and move it to the origin. Use the multi-cut tool to create an edge in the middle and subdivide it using the bevel tool, ensuring a decent number of segments are preserved. Then, deform it like before using the Curve Wrap tool. Ensure that you uncheck Keep Length to match the curve's length. Don't forget to unwrap the UVs for the low poly model through Create Automatic. Otherwise, it can't be baked with a high poly normal map. We're now exporting the low poly and the high poly meshes separately. Go to File, Export Selections, select a path, assign a name, and click the Export button. You can distinguish them by adding a suffix, such as LP for low poly and HP for high poly. It's time to open Substance Painter. Go to File, New, then choose the low poly model to import. Add a fill layer in advance in case of some minor problems. Go to the Shader Settings panel on the right side and switch the shader to PBR Metal Rough with Alpha Blending, or any other shader that supports Alpha Preview. Under Texture Set Settings, click the plus icon under Channels to add an opacity channel. Make sure to check opacity before start baking. I noticed the chain lying on the ground still looks too flat, so I went back into Maya, added a center edge loop, and pulled it upward to give it more volume. Re-import the mesh and substance painter. In the end, we have a very cheap chain that won't impact game performance at all. Even though the poly count is extremely low, chains used as decorative elements in games are often displayed using alpha cards. And from a distance, you can't even tell it's just a flat piece of geometry. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like more tutorials, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel.